But I can make some general, I can say some general things right off the bat. First of all, a lot of the emails that I got, and this is what differentiated almost all the emails that I got versus the like 4 or maybe 5 that looked ahead. Almost all the emails that I got had embedded HTML in them that made them look really wonky in my browser. So for example, it looked like you had clear paragraph line breaks when you sent it, but when I got it, it was all jammed together. You know, it looked like on your screen you had really nice, fancy, bold, italic, underlined section headings, but when I got it, it was like block paragraphs interspersed with HTML gobbledygook. You know, stuff like that. There were even some emails I got that like had no salutation, no close. You know, so I got those too. But mainly, it was emails that had 2 problems with them from the advice that I have. One problem is they had embedded HTML that like made it very difficult to deal with materially. And then second, they were like full of stuff that was just wasting my time. Like most of the emails I got started with this. My name is Art Fricke, and I am a student in your English 3365 Section 7 class. You just took 2 seconds of my time that I'll never get back. Why? Why? Why did I not need to read that sentence as the first sentence of the email that you sent? Yeah, first of all, I know you're in my class. That's why you're sending me the email. I even know which course and section you're in. That's why I asked you to put it in the subject line, so I know which folder to put it in. I mentioned the first day of class, did I not, that I'm terrible with names. I use it as a feature. I don't know what your name is now. I'm not going to know what your name is by the end of the semester. I mean, I don't want to seem like I'm harsh. I don't care what your name is because it's irrelevant to me. You are whatever the thing is that I'm interacting with in the moment. You are that email. You are that hard copy report. That's you. There's nothing else except this, right? So there's that. And then second of all, if I do care what your name is, I certainly don't care what your first name is. I mean, I don't mean like I don't care. I mean, it's irrelevant. It's noise. But like if I want to know your last name, what's a good thing? You put it in the first sentence of the email. If you send it from your TTU account, your name is your email address. And also, I asked you to put your last name in the subject line, once again. So 2 things to think about, hopefully in general, but if nothing else, to think about for the committee progress email report. Unless the hospital director that you're writing to has infinite time, which is unlikely. Job 1 is you want to be focused and only give them the relevant information that they need. And so think about that for every sentence of the email that you create. Does this contribute to what the goal of my email is? If the answer is no, then does it do something else? Like, does it control the tone? Does it somehow control, the hospital director's feelings? I mean, there are other legitimate reasons to have sentences that don't have, like, here's information you need. You can also have sentences that manipulate the tone and the feel and stuff like that. But if it doesn't do anything useful, get rid of it. Because otherwise you're sucking the life out of them a second at a time. So 2 generalizations to keep in mind. And then also, like I said, I'll have some more focused, a little bit more focused feedback for folks individually in the emails I send back. Yeah, question?
How do you get like an email not to be HTML and stuff? Like I've never
Great question. Fantastic question.
Is that when you copy and paste?
How many folks, yeah, that's actually the worst thing you can do is copy and paste from Word into, a browser window like this, and that's going to have like a world of legacy crap in it. That maybe the other person's browser can interpret and judge and, show correctly, but they've not. So how many folks use the TTU system Outlook email, like to send for class stuff? Most everybody, okay. The folks who don't, what do you use? Use Gmail or what? Yahoo? Mail.com?
I use the Mail app on my MacBook.
You use what?
The Mail app.
Okay. Oh, so that's pretty specialized, actually. It's pretty unique. So for stuff like, for systems like that, I don't know what the secret handshake is for disabling HTML. So if you want to continue using that, especially for assignments for this class where I specifically say don't use HTML, or for a job search, how many folks are going to be doing a job search, starting a job search this year? Yeah, okay, for you folks, figure out how to strip HTML out of your emails. Because when you're doing a job search, you have no idea what sort of filters your emails are going to go through. So you really need to get rid of the HTML in your job search emails. So, but anyway, for the folks who use Outlook, it's as simple as this. There's the drop down here in the compose box, plain text. There you go. Now you can't put any HTML in there. And if you copied and pasted from Word and then change it to, take out the HTML, it'll probably then make this look like, and then you just fix it with the keyboard. Now here's what you're left with, the keyboard.
So for example, when I copy and pasted because I copy and pasted in, but when I copy and pasted it, bunched it all together.
Yeah, of course.
And then I spaced it out.
Right. And then you send it as HTML, and this is how it showed up in my email. And this is how it showed up in my box, all jammed back together again. However, if you'd stripped out the HTML and then put in line breaks with the keyboard, enter, 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 then it would have shown up in my browser exactly like it looked in yours. Because however archaic or advanced the other person's email system is, it's plain text. It'll look exactly the same, no matter who's looking at it. And this is becoming increasingly more and more important as platforms are proliferating. Screen sizes are proliferating. So, everything recognizes plain text. That's what makes it plain. So, is that helpful? Cool. So for the committee progress email report, I can tell if it's, even though it's a hard copy, I can tell if it's got HTML in it or not, probably. And if it has HTML, you'll lose some points because that's one of the checklist items they'll be looking at. And so what I would do if I were you, especially if you compose your report in Word and copy and paste it into an email, which is a good idea, by the way, I think. That's the way I work for important emails. But strip out the HTML and then email it to yourself, because it's very easy to print an email that you just double click it to open it up, and then it's got the print option, print view it, and boom, there you go. And if you want me to imagine like a different email address, like you want to make up like Dr. Dre at islandheartmercy.org or something like that, just handwrite it in. Because I'm going to cover the hard copy with writing anyway, so you might as well get started. So, great question. Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, because that is something that I wanted to get to today. Because it's not very useful to say, yeah, don't use HTML, and then leave it at that, right? It's like, well, dude, tell me how. Tell me how. Teach me to fish. Cool. Other questions about anything that I just have been talking about? Yeah.
About word count, I can figure that out.
Some things, like the homework email that I asked for yesterday, I had a word count on that because I needed a certain number of words in order to make it an effective writing sample. Because one of the things I'll be offering feedback on probably is, okay, when we start talking about grammar and style, here's what you need to pay attention to. And also it helps me to understand what to spend time on when we talk about grammar and style. And if it's like 50 words, but 400 words is actually more than enough for an experienced editor to know, oh, okay, here's your things. So, but for the committee progress email report, that's one of the things that's up to you. Because the goal of the email is up to you, right? So some people are going to come up with statements of purpose. This email will fill in the blank so that you can fill in the blank, that are pretty complicated. So it'll require putting a lot of stuff into the email, and that's going to make a longer email. Other folks are going to have a very simple statement of purpose. Like, for example, this email will assure you that I have some contingency plans in place to prevent any possible delays this year, so that you can be assured there's nothing for you to do, and this will certainly be done by the deadline. For something like that, you would only need to, I could make an email like that go with an added 4 sentences of detail. Just like, okay, and here's a potential problem, and here's my backup plan for it. So there you go. So it depends. Now, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to get some very short email reports that suck. I'm going to get some very short email reports that are fantastic because they have a clear goal, they clearly achieve that goal, they're structured in a report way, they're focused, they don't have time, you know. But some of them are going to be very short, they're going to be terrible. Some of them are going to be very short. I'm going to get some that are very long that will suck. And I'm going to get some that will be very long that will be great, although they'll probably make me say, that's great, but why did you make this project so much work for yourself? You know. So out of those 4 choices, which box do you want to be in?
Short, sweet, to the point.
And is successful. Right, short and successful. Because that's probably what you can achieve with the least time and effort on your part and still be successful, right? So yeah, I would like to be in that box too. Yeah.
I took a class similar to this, and they told us 250 words, and if it's over 250 words, you shouldn't send it in an email, you should send it in a document.
I hate people like that. Please don't tell me who that was. Here's why. Paragraph length. How many people have heard advice, maybe it was back in high school, maybe it was in grade school, or in college, God forbid. How many people have had an English class teacher that has said a paragraph must be no shorter than X number of sentences? Okay, what was your number?
3 or 4.
3 or 4. They couldn't even decide. What was your number? 3 or 4. Anyone less than 3 or 4? Anyone more than 3 or 4? What was your number?
5.
5. Anyone, do I hear a 6? Do I hear a 7? Do I hear an 8? How short were some of the paragraphs in the email that I sent you a week before class started?
1 to 2.
1 to 2. Did that annoy you? Did that violate some rule of the universe? If you had to guess why I purposely wrote some sentences that were 2 or just 1 sentence long, some paragraphs that were that long, what would be your answer? Like, why did I do that?
Emphasis?
That's all we needed to know.
Emphasis, perhaps. Perhaps that's all you needed to know. Also, perhaps visually, I wanted you to read the email. And so I wanted to make it look insanely easy to skim. Right? So here's my rule of thumb for paragraph length. It needs to match the situation, the medium, the audience, the reader, and the goal. What are you trying to get accomplished? The audience is a busy student who's getting something a week before classes even start. The medium is email, and God knows what you're checking it on. You know, the screen might be this big. And third, the goal is, my primary 0 goal is for you to read it. Therefore, use insanely short paragraphs. 1 sentence is like the ideal. Right? So someone who says, oh, an email must be this many words long, or conversely, if it's longer than that, really? Now you understand, right? Why I hate that person. Because that's just dumb. It's lazy thinking. It's like, just always do it this way. Well, there's a reason why a lot of fruitful teaching starts with "it depends," because then it helps you to be self-aware of the situation, the audience, the context. So, is that helpful?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just want to, because everybody, I'm sure, has that sort of device in their background, in their experience, and I want folks to start getting the feeling that maybe you should. I'm not saying it's wrong. I shouldn't have said it's dumb. It's just, I think it's misguided to always be chained to those rules. To instead think about, maybe not tossing them out, all of them, but to instead say, well, okay, this class is going to be about something different. This class is going to be about, thinking about the context, the situation, whatever. So the length of your email for the committee progress email report, well, it depends. It depends on things like how complicated is my email goal. It depends on things like how busy or not busy is the director. It depends on things like how new is the director. If it's a not very busy director who's brand new to the hospital, and the goal of the email is to help them better understand what the committees do so that they can be better at their job and more informed about the hospital, that's going to be a long email. That's going to be longer than 250 words, certainly. And if you put it in an attachment, that would just freaking annoy them, because now it's an extra, just give me the email. Now, if they're in that same position but they're very busy, then you'd have to figure out a way of balancing a long email with easy to skim, and there are ways to do that. But you can also think up hypothetical situations for this email report where, been here a long time, they don't really care. They care, but their goal is to, I don't want to be involved with this, but I want to make sure it finishes on time and is successful. That could be a very short email. That could be a 250-word email. So, which I'm thinking is where your question really was at, is how long does my committee progress email report have to be? And it needs to be long enough to achieve the goal and match the situation. That's my answer. So it will vary depending on what you come up with. That's why it's open-ended. Cool question. Other questions?